Ladies and gentlemen, for a session sponsored by Formation.ai, please welcome co-founder and CEO, Formation.ai, Christian Selchau-Hansen, and Vice President, Digital Products and Analytics, United Airlines, Praveen Sharma, in discussion with SkiftX research editor, Jeremy Kressmann.
In this session, we're going to discuss two topics I think are closely related, right? Personalization and loyalty. We all know that loyalty is a critical component of travel industry success, right? But what loyalty means is undergoing a substantial shift right now, right? Customers want travel experiences that better meet their wants and needs any given moment throughout the journey. I think there's also new innovations coming to market like machine learning. We'll talk about that. And those have the potential to transform how the industry is actually delivering personalization in a more relevant way, right? So I've got Praveen from United here and also Christian from Formation. They're going to help us understand how these two terms, how these topics are evolving, right? So Christian, why don't we start with you? Tell me about personalization. You know, it's this very popular topic in the industry, but it's very broad. It means a lot of things for a lot of different people. What does that term mean to you, and what does it mean for what you're doing at Formation?
Great, it's a great question. I do think personalization right now is a relatively blanket term. But when I think about it, it means putting the customer at the center of everything you do. And I think it's very exciting in the travel space that there's so many different points of a journey which can then be improved through personalization. Mm-hmm. Now, the challenge is that the tools marketers have today, they make that kind of scaling to the individual very, very challenging. And the problem that you then encounter is you have this desire and you have the customer expectation, which is treat me as an individual, and you find yourself challenged in being able to actually act on it. Now, the way we think about it is there are three big things that you need to do to really connect with the individual customers. And one is develop a comprehensive understanding, not just simple demographics, not just looking at how often or how frequent or how much they spend, but understand what they're trying to achieve. When you understand what the customer is trying to achieve, you can then help them to achieve that goal. And that brings me to the second point, which is creating those kinds of experiences and offers which help customers achieve those individual goals and doing it in a way that is effective as well as efficient. And brings me to the third one, which is, so now you have this relevant customer experience. And how do you stay relevant? And it means you have to apply learnings quickly and efficiently. And you know, with Formation, I think our goal as a company is to make this possible for customers. And we're pretty excited about what we've been able to do with United to help bring it to their customers.
Yeah. One more question while we're talking about personalization and loyalty. You know, loyalty is a big part of what you're doing at Formation. What would you say is the relationship between personalization and loyalty programs, right? They've traditionally been these separate things, but now they're kind of blurring together. Are travelers looking for something different than maybe they wanted in the past?
Yeah, I do think the customer expectation for relevance is going through the roof. You know, I think as consumers, we all see, whether it's through Netflix, through Google, for Stitch Fix, through Amazon, this notion of being able to help me as a consumer in a way that is much more valuable and much less friction. And when you can do that, customers really respond. Now, that sets a new bar in terms of the expectation. And I think for travel, again, loyalty is increasingly becoming about recognizing that uniqueness in your customer and being able to act on it. And I think that is a very exciting area for the kind of continued growth and establishing and deepening the relationship, which to me is really, again, like that's the core of loyalty.
Praveen, let's ask you your perspective on this. You know, United's very much on the front lines, what's happening with loyalty, personalization. What do you think about this overlap? Are you seeing that? And how are these two disciplines evolving or interacting with each other?
So I think as Christian was pointing out, you know, personalization is essentially making sure that you know your customers and their experiences and make sure you can provide them not just relevant offers, but relevant to help them in the process of their journey. So I think that's the way to look at it. Loyalty can be a subset of that. Personalization can apply to every customer versus not. So I think that's the way to look at it in that.
Okay. And can you tell me about some of the ways you guys are actually bringing personalization to life?
Yeah.
Like, tell me about some stages in the customer journey or different engagement points. What does that look like?
So I think for United, and first of all, I think for us, the customer, improving customer experience is paramount. And what we try to do with personalization is to make sure we understand their end-to-end journey, figure out where the pain points are, where the opportunities to improve their experience, travel experiences, and use personalization to provide that sort of individualized experience. But second point, which is sort of coming through for us, is that as Christian was pointing out, the expectations of customers is there that, hey, you know me, you I've been traveling with you, so give me the, they expect a personalized sort of experience. And so it is a priority for us. Then finally, I think we have a lot of information, and our customers sort of share a lot of information with us. So what we try to do with using platforms like Formation and all to look at that data, understand the customer journey, figure out what we can do in terms of in a very meaningful way, and do it at scale. So that's how we sort of are approaching personalization. And the final aspect of personalization for companies, like whether it's travel or hospitality, is it won't be always digital personalization. It is also an analog aspect for it. So how can we make sure that our frontline employees and the employees who are our team members who are having interaction with that customer, they also have the contextual information so that they can make that in-person experience personalized. So I think that's sort of the way to look at it. Yeah.
Got it. So Christian, I mentioned machine learning at the outset of this discussion. How can this technology actually help brands deliver personalization? We talk a lot about it, but as I understand, this is something that really helps with the scalability of personalization, right? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, firstly, I think the role of the marketer today is extraordinarily complicated. There are so many different decisions that a marketer needs to make in order to communicate with their customers in a way that is relevant. And when you combine that with, again, this higher level of customer expectation for relevance, pretty quickly the techniques that are used today, like segmentation, you begin to bump up against some pretty significant limits. If you want to go from 5 segments to 10, you're doubling the amount of effort, and sometimes even more than doubling the amount of complexity for your operations. So how can you then scale the number of decisions a marketer can make and do it efficiently and effectively? What we've been doing, along with United and helping them, is to apply machine learning to amplify those decisions that a marketer can make, to make it possible to reach every customer at an individual level, to improve their experience, to remove that friction. And it's been very exciting, because I think when customers see that relevance, when they experience it, they really respond. And the results are really compelling.
So in terms of that question of results, you guys are actually working on a program right now, as I understand it, called MilePlay with United. Can you tell me a little bit how you're applying some of this information to what's happening there?
Yeah, absolutely. So as Praveen mentioned, United's goal with personalization is really being able to reach individual customers and help them in their individual and unique journeys. And what MilePlay allows us to do is to be able to create experiences and offers that simultaneously delight the customer while also helping United achieve some business objectives. And again, a lot of those business objectives are around customers engaging in a way that is very relevant to them. And that, again, because of the complexity and, again, the uniqueness of a customer, that's pretty complicated. The way we've approached it in MilePlay is to really focus on 3 different dimensions. Like, number 1 is use what we call multi-step experiences. And what multi-step experiences enable is a customer to express a goal and for us to give an easy path to achieve that objective or that goal. And that's really powerful. Consumers have enormous numbers of choices. Those choices can be overwhelming and confusing, and giving people an easy path is a really great way to help them, again, achieve what they're trying to do. The second is that when you think about then helping customers achieve their individual objectives with multiple steps, and everyone is unique, you want to create numerous variations, in many cases millions of different ways to help customers do that. Again, all with the purpose of relevance. So what MilePlay enables is the creation of those millions of unique variations to then present and select which variation is the right one for each customer, and to do it efficiently and effectively.
Right. So in other words, if I'm using the app or this interface, I might get a different loyalty offer if I was a frequent traveler versus if I was a first-time traveler, right? Absolutely,
and you should. Yeah. You should receive something that is relevant to where you are in the customer journey, to speak to a way that is powerful for what you're trying to achieve. And yeah.
And if I can also add in that, I think the other part, the way we are looking at is not just sort of offer in terms of what we can have upsell or improve their this, but also provide them information and help them in their process of journey. So for one example, which we did with MilePlay is, offer or incent or inform customers that, hey, you can check in your bag outside the airport too. You can do it on the app and then do a bag drop. The thing is, those kind of things are there, but not not all customers are aware of those opportunities. So I think we are able to use these kind of platform to do it. And the related part of that is the learning. I think the biggest part of personalization, which we are sort of focused along with Formation, is learnings from what people have done before. It's not just that, hey, in this experience you saw various things, but what is that you do, and what is that I can ask you or offer you to do next time? That feedback loop is also significantly important. And trying to do that feedback loop at scales that we are talking, that's where we sort of need, whether it's machine learning platforms or tools or platforms like Formation.
It's so interesting. There's an informational, behavioral component to it, but there's also a merchandising component as well, is what it sounds like. Praveen, I was actually going to ask you, you mentioned the topic of upselling. What role, if any, do you think this type of personalization should play in the sort of transaction flow when you're presenting offers to a customer?
Yeah. So I think the one aspect, as you look at, I think, customers' travel journey and the choices they have in front of them, how can we use personalization to simplify that choice? And how can we sort of make them walk through that process faster? So if you if you have been lately sort of looking at United's customer-facing channel, whether it's a United.com or a mobile app, the whole redesign which we have done is focused on how it could be specific to you based on the context of your journey, whether it's at the time of shopping or at the time at the airport, and be personalized. So I think the concept of personalization and contextual sort of are back to each other. Then in our booking flow, what we have been doing recently is that if you go to homepage, United.com homepage, something which we launched just last week, is based on your past travel history, we can recommend you destinations, and destinations which are either similar to or different from what you have previously done, and not only just recommend you, sort of provide you the pricing and all that aspect around with it. And then when you're doing your flight search and there are multiple options of coming to San Francisco from Chicago, based on your travel history and what you have done previously, I can just say, hey, you don't have to look at the 10 version, here is the flight which you generally take, and make that happen. So you reduce the customer effort through personalization. And then when you are whether in the what you call as a managed rest platform, where after you have purchased the flight, but you did not choose a seat, but I say, hey, Christian, you always sit in aisle seat, here is the aisle seat open, and we recommend that seat. That essentially is not really an upsell, but helping customers sort of go through their journey in a more efficient way. So that's how we are looking at it.
Yeah, well, I know in behavioral economics, they always talk about the nudge, right?
Yes.
It's like this subtle way of hinting what you should do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to ask both of you, and Christian, this is something came up in your answer before. You think about this idea of segmentation, right? You've got, in the past, you talk about business travelers and leisure travelers, but I'm curious, has that distinction, does that still remain relevant in today's environment? We've got thousands of different trip intents, right? Can we still do personalization, saying like, oh, we're just going to have our business customization and our leisure customization?
I certainly think those distinctions are relevant, but they're not complete. Again, the role of segmentation in a lot of ways was to simplify a very complex set of decisions that you had to make. And the nature of leisure travel versus business travel afforded a kind of easy way to simplify. But the reality is customers aren't that simple. Everyone is unique, and every one of the trips they're taking is unique. If I'm traveling for example, to Chicago, it might be for a business meeting, but I might tack on a weekend because I'm there to see friends. Now, all of a sudden, what happens? I'm not exactly a business traveler. I'm not exactly a leisure traveler. I have aspects of both. I would both be interested in understanding, are there products, services that United can interest me with or connect me through their partners to make the leisure part of my trip more efficient, or perhaps and more fun, and make the business part even more efficient. And so that, I think, is where there's a huge array of potential for recognizing a individual customer's kind of a unique journey, and then being able to make it simpler, better, and more enjoyable.
Praveen, any last thoughts? We're almost out of time, but
I think exactly adding to what Christian was saying, it's not the customer who is segmented, it's more of their journey in the context in which. So I may be a business customer today coming here, or tomorrow I may be when I'm traveling with my family, a leisure customer. So a personalization offer or personalized experience that considered me as a business segment will not apply to when I'm traveling with my family. So taking that sort of contextual information, who you're traveling, whether you're staying over the weekend or not, looking at all that information and making the right decision is very critical to us. And doing that at scale is what requires the platforms which we are looking for and working with.
Yeah. Christian, Praveen, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Go off this way.